Welcome again. It is your man, Brother Minister at the Ghetto Prepper, getting you black folks ready for a grid down societal collapse. When the dollar starts rubbing, your checks stop coming, when your food stamps start coming, when your job paycheck is going to be no more, when the ATM machines aren't working. This channel is specifically for black folk to get you ready. And the reason I said black folks is because there's like a whole bunch of other prepper channels, but they're by other type of people, and their challenges are not, they don't have the challenges that we have. For instance, they say put a bag on and bug out. Where are we going to go that we'll be safe? We found during Hurricane Katrina that when we try to walk out, and I'm flashing a news story up in front of you, there are going to be people in suburbs that are going to drive us back with shotguns. When even police got in on killing black people in Louisiana when they were trying to get out. And then when they put black people in Superdome with other black people victimized us as well. So the problem is for black people, we can't just bug out. We can't just run out to the woods and do that kind of stuff, because we have medication needs that are life-threatening. We have other needs, and that's what this channel is meant to do. And I encourage you to watch some more of my videos, just as we set the foundation for this brand new channel that was only started several days ago, apart and separate from all my other channels. So what I want to do today is, and it's going to maybe a little longer than 9 minutes, 59 seconds. Unlike every other prepping channel that you see, there are people, all the other preppers, not, in addition to not speaking to black needs, right? We're gonna have to hunker down. We got like diabetes. We got all these life-threatening conditions that we have to prepare for, that they're not going to address, and we can't go anywhere anyway because we're viewed with suspicion right now, let alone when people lose their minds. So I'm saying that I have an experience to share with you that is unlike anything you've heard on any other prepping channel, and I haven't necessarily spoken of it like this for 29 years, for when it happened. And we remember, you heard about Black Hawk Down. The choppers went down. Some choppers went down in, I believe, it was October, sometime in October. Well, we were on our way, we were on float, and we arrived there a little while after that, because it was a serious situation. And I'm gonna, from time to time, I'm gonna flash pictures on the screen so you will know that I am telling you the truth. And I don't know Photoshop, and I'm sorry about the pictures, but these are pictures of pictures, right? That I've had for 29 years, almost 30 years now. My unit, which was Charlie Battery, 1st Battalion, 11th Marine Regiment, we were a part of an expeditionary force. I believe it was the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force. I can't remember what the name of the amphibious, I don't know if it's a 23rd MEU, 24th MEU, I can't remember what it was. But we were, I was a part of an amphibious assault unit. We were on our way to Australia, and these orders came down from, basically from the president, to say that they needed boots on the ground in Somalia immediately. So our ship, we were on our way to Australia, so we just kept on going by there, and we headed on over to Africa. And when I tell you, most people have no idea, even us black people in ghettos, like, and specifically those of you that were in New York City and a part of that wasteland in the late 1960s, early through the 1970s, it's even worse than that. So when we talk about grid down, no electricity, no food, no water, no functioning government, this, that, and the other, I saw it personally. So we hit the beach in Mogadishu, in Marines, we hit the beach there. And what President Clinton did at that time is he hid us underneath UN peacekeeping forces, because there are few peacekeeping forces there then, but even they were getting killed. So when Marines showed up, that killing stopped of those peacekeepers, because if they would have killed UN peacekeepers from other countries, and most of those, all of those countries that I saw there were like peacekeeping forces from Africa. I met a guy from a unit, he was a cook named Obembe, and he was from Nigeria, and he made a dish called pepe soup, but it was like the best rice dish I've ever had, made with fresh goat meat, right? It was good. But we arrived there. I want to impress upon you the need first to get ready, to get all your supplies, to get all your stores, whoever you are. because when we got there, what we were met with, there was no functioning government. There was necessarily no water, safe water to drink anyway. There was no food necessarily there was no operating government. There was no stores. The desperation of a grid down society, I'm failing to even communicate to you now, and I'm gonna flash pictures across the screen of people that were at the gate of this place called the Old Port where we were based. Now, this was a ruined wasteland too, so if you have to pause and look at the pictures, look at everything in the pictures. I'm sorry I did such a poor job with the pictures, but I did, I did the best I could. I had a cheap camera and did the best I could back then. So the buildings were bombed out. There was no running water. There was no, the wells had been polluted. Other wells were ran by local militias. So the people, and what was striking there was that in this grid down, no government society, no functioning government, what was striking there first is people were victimizing other people right out in the middle of the street, and no one could come and help them. We were standing there armed at that gate to protect. We were there necessarily to protect the base of the UN peacekeepers, right? Because again, the word got out obviously to Somalis that US Marines are on the ground. And what they knew at that time, and not even one, the whole time, 4 or 5 months, whatever we were there, not one shot, not one mortar, not one round came into that base, even though they could have, because we weren't necessarily out trying to have a perimeter a mile or two outside to make sure. No, they knew Marines were on the ground, and if they would have fired in, we would have had to go out and get them, and we would have gotten them, and they knew that. So they backed off, and they were just doing what they needed to do to survive. But what was interesting is we saw people like beat up, beat in the head. Women were getting dragged in alleys. It was horrible, and we couldn't do anything but stand there and make sure they didn't hurt peacekeepers and hurt the water supply for the peacekeepers and those people that were there trying to keep the peace. And here's a picture of one of those peacekeepers at a stand inside of the base, and I took it right there. And so what you have to realize, I want to get home to all of us, there's only going to be two type of people in this grid down. No water, no food, no electricity, no infrastructure, no functioning government. There's only two type of people in those societies. There are the alphas, and there's everybody else. Alphas are always the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst that will rise to the top between murder and mayhem. They are gangs of psychopathic, serial killing criminals. So that becomes important because Black folks, I know we think we had it bad, but I'm telling you, I grew up in the ghetto. I grew up poor, free lunch, food stamps. Y'all remember the brown food stamps? Government cheese, food bank food. I grew up like that, just surviving, right? My mama did, she had 13 she did the best she could. So when I tell you, you can't imagine what real poverty is. We had nothing, but we had roofs over head. These people had less than nothing and didn't have roofs over their head. Going around in garbage dumps trying to get food, and really there was no food even in the garbage dumps. They were trying to get junk to sell, to get food and to get water, right? So that becomes important because you need to get ready now. Because in a grid down society, Black women in general, you're going to be victimized. And this grid down, if you're not prepared in grid down, your kids are going to be crying for food. I'm fastening a picture now of a woman, again, the group of women who were at the gate begging for something for their kids. They were begging and they had nothing. As we go forward with that, something else that you have to realize, and I heard a prepper talking about your sleeping bag and all sorts of stuff like this and getting sleep at these. In a grid down society, you are only going to be able to sleep an hour or two at most, and what's going to wake you up is gunfire. I know because we barely got any sleep at the Old Port in Mogadishu. Now, nobody was firing on us. I'm not going to tell you that lie. They knew better than that. What was interesting is that even when we were on guard duty, we only got guard duty for 1 hour. Typically on a Marine Corps base, or when you're not in a hot zone, you go on, in our day anyway, you had 4 hours of guard duty, midnight to 4 a.m., 4 a.m. to 8 a.m., 8 a.m., whatever that is. But my section chief, or our unit, We only did 1 hour each because we had to be alert. And after 4 hours, you kind of, especially that time of night, you drag it. And we really didn't get a lot of sleep then because we heard gunfire, right? And I can still hear those things today. So I'm saying when we're talking about a grid down society as well, you're going to have to even think about how you sleep, because the unexpected is going to happen. And that is what these other prep channels are not telling you because they don't know. You're not going to be able to get sleep like you want to. And you're not going to be able to be out on your own. That is a lie. Canadian Prepper, all you prep channels, y'all need to stop that suggesting anyway that people need to throw a bag on their back and be alone. You are not going to survive in a grid down society alone. I was a U.S. Marine, trained, hardcore killer. I would not have made it in Somalia by myself. I would have been overrun by the worst of the worst of the worst. I would have been murdered. I'd have been killed. There were Marines in helicopters that couldn't even survive alone. And they were in a patch circling, with missiles and rounds, and they got killed. How do you think you're going to throw a bag on your back and be in a city or be somewhere and make it alone? Now, if you go out in the middle of the wilderness, that's another conversation. But even then, somebody is going to find you and they're going to victimize you. So the big idea here is what I'm telling you. You have got to find other people with skills. I mean, all kinds of skills. And you're going to have to form a collective. If I were you, I would start with 3 or 4 people that had different skills, maybe medical, protection, weapons, plants, botanists, somebody that can help the group. This stuff about throwing a bag on your back and leaving, y'all need to stop that, because these killers are going to find you and they're going to victimize you. I'm telling you, prep channels, stop telling people that lie. Be right back.